Okay, so it's my pleasure to introduce Steve Tobias. Steve is a professor of applied mathematics here at Leeds, and he's also the director of the Leeds Institute for Fluid Dynamics. And he's going to help us celebrate 5 years of LIFD and look to the future.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thank you all for coming. This talk has rapidly evolved when I was writing it from what am I going to say for half an hour about LIFD to how am I going to say all this in half an hour about LIFD? I realise I'm the only person keeping you from drinking, so I will finish on time. Partly because Andy has introduced everything so well, so I don't have to say some things that I could have said. So you all know that because you're all here. The Leeds Institute for Fluids is a cross-disciplinary, and that is the key word. It's really a cross-disciplinary research institute that brings together the expertise of, now we have more than 300 researchers. And we're interested in excellence in teaching, research, in fluid dynamics, both fundamental and applied. And so we have researchers from 12 university departments. We try and bridge the gap between industry and academia. We try and co-create relevant research projects. And that's something that has really born out of the CDT, which I'll come to later. We're making a large impact into co-creating guidance for policymakers. And of course, the CDT and our undergraduate programs really provide high quality training for undergraduates and PhD students. What do we cover? Well, I think, you know, once you put down the universe, I think you probably cover everything. But I have a colleague who says 99% of the universe is fluids and the rest is just details, which I think maybe should be our motto. But of course, the universe does have some solids in there. You know, what can we do? So we also cover interaction with solid mechanics. Of course, process industry, we're important for clean energy, health, climate, environment. We do fundamental fluid dynamics. So LIFD covers all of these things and really tries to get the interaction of all these processes on a fundamental level. So you've seen most of this stuff before, but we do cover everything pretty much at the Institute. So you've seen Sepide give a talk about nanomaterials and how to get hydrophobic materials. So we're talking about things on nanoscales, but then we do research on microchannels. So this is a didn't want to do that. This is a PCR device optimized for fluid dynamically optimized. And then we have interactions between particles on very small scales and fluids. So this is from the very, very small through some industrial applications. We have lots of industrial applications such as steel casting or microstructures in the solidification process. This very beautiful picture here was produced using computational fluid dynamics using the phase field methods, or inkjet printing and non-Newtonian fluids. I couldn't list all the industrial applications because, you know, that would be the whole talk. So of course, fluid dynamics is important for industry. Through all our grand challenges, we heard a little bit from Andy about health and clean air. So here's, you all know Gareth, our experimental officer. Here he is wearing a mask, and we did some research on fluid dynamics of masks. We have LICAM, which is one of the largest cardiovascular imaging systems, imaging centres in the country. And of course, the idea there is to reconstruct the flows in the heart and lungs, and therefore provide personalised medical. And then we have the clean air, right? So we're looking at the flows around buildings. How do we get clean air? So these are two of our grand challenges that we face today: health and clean air. Other grand challenges are clean energy. This is certainly important, from renewable energies such as wind farms, hydrogen technology in hydrogen batteries. And you'll hear later on from our public lecturer, Steve Cowley, talking about the challenges involved in magnetically confined fusion. I'd just like, at this point, before I forget, to thank Steve so much for coming, because I didn't realise this was happening. He flew in last night. He's here today. He flew in from Princeton last night. He's here today. And then Princeton have said, you have to be back in Princeton tomorrow. So he's flying back to Princeton tomorrow. And then he's flying to Europe for the meeting he was originally meant to be going to. So we really do appreciate you being here. Okay. Oh, and there's a little movie of magnetically confined fusion, which I'm sure Steve will talk about a bit later on. Other grand challenges, climate and weather. We do a lot of work here at Leeds on the interaction of ice and oceans, which is a fundamental problem for climate research, atmospheric dynamics, including hurricanes and gravity currents. All of this is fluid dynamics. So when somebody asks you what is fluids good for, there's certainly a great answer to give. And then, of course, there's the kind of stuff I do, which, of course, is very important, and the stuff Chris does as well, right? So astrophysical and geophysical fluids, the interaction of fluids with rotation, stratification, and magnetic fields. So we have, how is the Earth's magnetic field generated? How does it interact with the solar magnetic field? Space weather, Andy mentioned. It was on the UK's risk register. It was the second on the UK's risk register a few years ago after the threat of a pandemic. So we did well with the pandemic, thanks to Kath, but see how we can do with space weather, to the dynamics of stars and planets, and even relativistic jets from black holes. We cover all of this research in LIFD, which is kind of amazing. Okay, so how did LIFD get formed? It's an interesting question, and I was looking back through emails to try and figure out what the answer was. I must have had a weakness at some point, and it kind of emerged from a meeting I had with the Vice Chancellor, who was then Alan Langlands, about something completely different. And I just happened to mention, you know, what we should have is an Institute of Fluid Dynamics. And Alan was very good at this. He just said, great, go off and do one. And I was like, oh, blimey, I've got no idea how you do that. And so what I did was I went round various school research groups, kind of floundering around a bit. And then I was looking back, I had an email from Duncan Borman, who I don't know if Duncan's here, but he said, oh, yeah, come to Civil and talk to our group. You know, I'm sure there'll be some people there who are very supportive. And that's where I bumped into Kath, and Kath was like, this is what you need to do. You know, end things, this is what you need to do. And so that's why we have an institute today. It's because Kath knew what she was doing, and that's why I just let her take over, which was great. By October 2018, we put together a talk to give to you lot about why having an institute in fluid dynamics would be a good idea. And we put down some of the things, I dug out this talk, that we would be quite interested in doing. And I hopefully you'll see that actually we've done all of these things, I think. So that's not too bad. And then, of course, famously, we had our inaugural event in January 2019, which is why this is the fifth anniversary. See, we look a bit younger there, Kath. I think running LIFD gives us a few more grey hairs, where we had Howard Stone giving our inaugural lecture, and there's the VC. So it's been 5 years since we managed to set up LIFD. Of course, LIFD is not an entity in its own right. It grew out of our Centre for Doctoral Training. It was really catalysed by the presence of a CDT in fluid dynamics, and the CDT was established in 2014. The Centre for Doctoral Training has been an amazing success, I think it's fair to say. We've had 10 cohorts, about 100 students, with a vast range of projects and cross-school supervision. We go from the very fundamental, people writing down asymptotic expansions in the maths department, all the way through theoretical, highly computational and experimental projects, all the way from blue skies research to industry aligned and industry focused projects. And our CDT graduates have had a wide range of destinations. So I think it's a triumph that 70% of our graduates are still working in roles that make direct use of fluid mechanics. 44% of those are in the private sector. For employers, you can see our list of employers there. That's not a comprehensive list. We still have 37%, about a third of them are still working in academia, and 18% in the public sector. I put down a few notable successes and honours. And thank you all for sending them in. I couldn't put them all on the list, but these are some of the ones that really stood out to me. The university was awarded a Queen's Anniversary Prize. This is the UK's highest accolade for research into its tropical weather systems and climate science in 2021. That is a remarkable achievement, I think it's fair to say. We have some winners of some prestigious medals. Phil and Chris have won the Price Medal of the Royal Astronomical Society. I quite like this one. I don't know if it's prestigious or not, but we're a Sellafield Limited Academic Centre of Expertise for Sludge. Go us. Yeah, I mean, that's really good. And of course, our LIFD Deputy Director, Kath, has been appointed Officer of the Order of the British Empire and the recipient of the Royal Society's Gabor Medal. And here she is giving the Royal Institution Christmas lecture in 2021. And I think, yeah, we wouldn't be here without Kath. So just amazing achievements. Of course, our students have had some successes as well. So I've just listed some here. We've got many EPSA Doctoral Prize fellowships. We have people who've had prestigious fellowships from the Newton Institute. We have one winner of the UKFN Thesis Prize, and we've also won some innovation awards as well. So we're doing incredibly well in terms of success. So Andy touched on this. What else has LIFD done? It's a bit like, what have the Romans ever done for us? Well, we were, I think it's fair to say, prime movers in getting together this national report on fluid dynamics. I won't go through the recommendations of the national report on fluids because Andy's already done so. But this took an awful lot of work, but I think it's having an awful lot of impact. We had 386 attendees at a launch event for the report, and I think that's a bit out of date. We probably have more closer to 400 views of the launch event recording on YouTube. And we thank all the people who've contributed. You can see there that, as Andy said, fluid dynamics has an amazing effect on the economy. £14 billion annually can be attributed to fluid dynamics. But more importantly to me, and more importantly to a lot of people, is the contribution it makes to both societal problems and in terms of its levelling up agenda. So fluid dynamics is really a whole nation activity. You can see here, these are the firms that are working in fluid dynamics. And you can see here the research and societal impacts of fluids. So you can see the route to net zero, increasing our productivity and resilience, levelling up, and it's increasing our UK capability and research. So when you write a grant to Andy at EPSLC and you want to get it funded, you need to point to this research, right? You need to point to the importance of fluid dynamics. When somebody says, you know, what is the impact of your research? There's an easy thing to point to. So here were the recommendations of the report. The recommendations were that there should be a national centre in fluid dynamics. There should be increased support for fluid dynamics training in industry and academia. Now, we think this is important. The application of next generation data-driven fluid dynamics methods across sectors and into industry. When we talk to our industry partners, they are incredibly keen on training and support in AI or machine learning. Matthew doesn't like the term AI. Machine learning combined with the physics of fluid dynamics. This is going to be incredibly important going further. And of course, what we need to do is generate and retain our fluid dynamics intellectual property in the UK. It's no use us coming out with all these great ideas and then exporting it. What we want is to improve the UK through our knowledge of fluid dynamics. The national report has already had a significant impact, both nationally and internationally. So I've made presentations of the report's findings internationally in the USA and Australia and the Netherlands. By Zoom, obviously, but still. And the Netherlands have taken the ball and started running with it, and they've produced their own national report on the importance of fluid dynamics. So here it is. This is the Flow to the Future Fluid Dynamics in the Netherlands. So we need to keep ahead Maybe I should stop telling them that they should be doing these things, but yeah, we're doing really well. And the national report had a massive impact, I think it's fair to say. So if you want more information, I'm told that these things you can just point your phone up and get the link to if you. Okay, so what else has LIFD done in the 5 years? Well, I think it's fair to say we've fostered a vibrant research environment at Leeds. We've built on our international reputation, and we've driven, to a certain extent, UK strategy in fluids. From the point of view of just the great research we're doing, we've been associated with nearly 2,000 research outputs. That's just from 2020 to 2023. From the point of view of the Vice-Chancellor or the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, if he were here, we could say LIFD members have contributed to the award of grant funding of over 170 million. As we've heard, members of the Institute have been successful in securing funding for major facilities, and we've established new collaborations both within academia and with industry. Now, of course, LIFD does this in many ways. It provides outreach funding for mobility and seed corn funding. We have an ECR forum. We have a lot of early career researchers, and so we have an ECR forum. And as already been mentioned, we support the scientific machine learning group in the university. We also helped, together with the UK Fluids Network, put together the idea of a national fellowship scheme in fluid dynamics. So this is the second time you'll have seen all of the nifty fellows. We did have a fellow at Leeds who originally, so this is a very sad square. There was originally 12 nifty fellows, one of whom was at Leeds, and unfortunately they pulled out, which is kind of annoying, but still. But this was an amazingly attractive scheme. We had 230 expression of interest applications. 40 of those were invited for full proposals, and well, 12 were awarded and 11 were accepted. And we're very grateful for the support from EPSRC. It's a £3.5 million scheme. So EPSRC are really putting their hands in their pockets and putting their money where their mouth is. Just to advertise, there will be a summer programme. It is hosted in Leeds this summer. It'll be in 2 parts. The first 2 weeks will be lectures in data-driven fluid dynamics. There are some free spaces which we'll be talking to people about later on. So if you're interested in learning about data-driven fluid dynamics, look out for an announcement from us soon. We're also helping to shape what we're calling a UK National Fluids Initiative. If we wanted to do something on a national scale to bring fluid dynamicists together and really make the most of the strengths of the UK fluids community, do we need an initiative? What would that initiative look like? So we put together a consultation survey of 146 people took it. We had an away day of the fluids community, and we're really trying to work out what is it that would make fluid dynamics in the UK look even better in the future. You'll hear tomorrow about LIFD public engagement, so I won't go into too much detail. There's some very exciting, it seems to me, very exciting things that are happening to do with Math City, which you'll hear about tomorrow. But we engaged through our CDT, and we also funded some exhibits in Math City. We made awards to Math City for the development of wave tank activities and a really cool augmented reality sandbox. For those of you who don't know what Math City is, if you go to the Trinity Centre just near the station, you can go and have a look. It's one of the, well, you'll find out about it tomorrow. You have to come tomorrow. I don't want to steal anything. We also put on the LIFD, JFM, DAMTP webinars. This has been an amazing thing to do. It was launched at the height of the pandemic in May 2020. We had webinars. They were held weekly until June 2021, and then monthly after that. You can see some of the people who we've had speaking, some of the top names in fluid dynamics from around the world. And at the height of its popularity, this webinar was getting over 500 attendees every week. So that was an amazing achievement, together with Cambridge University Press and DAMTP. We have our social media and external communication platforms run by Claire here. So we have a Twitter. I'm sure you all follow us on Twitter and YouTube. And just to say, we are now on Cassini. So if you want to see any of our webinars or get information about our future webinars, you can have a look at Cassini. We have our series of annual lectures, and we've had some really top world-leading lecturers, which have been really enjoyable. We're still working on our annual lecturer for 2024. I'm glad that Sylvan could make it today. I don't know if he's still here. Yeah, so it's great that you came back to see us. I'd like to announce today that we're also going to have another lecture series. This is in honour of an LIFD member, Sam Myers, who was a research student here who died over Christmas. So in his honour, we're going to have an annual lecture for early career researchers. We don't know whether that will be a separate event or we'll twin it with the regular annual lecture, but watch this space. So this will be a great opportunity to get some of the up and coming fluid dynamicists here to Leeds. We're very keen on EDI, and you'll see that tomorrow there is a Women in Fluids discussion forum. We had a Women in Fluids event just for LIFD earlier, well, last year in fact, and our LIFD colloquia this year have been a series of talks by Women in Fluids, and we're interested in pushing ED&I in fluids. And anybody who wants to get involved, there will be a Women in Fluids network event tomorrow, and I think they'll be sending out emails about future things in good time. We, of course, have strategic partners in industry. Some of them are linked with our CDT, some of them are not. So we continue to work with industry and external organisations directly or via the CDT. We have plans to set up an LIFD Industrial Engagement Centre and also a Global Challenges Policy Centre. So if you're interested in any of these things, please do contact us to get involved. So I was asked to finish by saying something about what I think the future of fluids should look like. And we heard a lot from Stephen Belcher about the Met Office and how they're approaching the future. And so I thought I'd finish by just saying a little bit about what the future of fluids looks like. Of course, at the moment, we have exascale computing and experiments and observations. You know, those are two of the things we use day to day for understanding fluid dynamics. But of course, they produce a lot of data and fundamental understanding. And so what we need to do is combine this approach, this solving the PDEs. And Matthew was saying earlier that we have a fetish about PDEs. Well, I'm a mathematician, of course, we have a fetish about PDEs. But you know, once you've solved the PDEs, you get an awful lot of data out. And so what is the smart use of data and AI to help us with understanding and predicting fluids? Now, as I say, I'm a mathematician, but I am always going to argue for the importance of fundamental theory. We need to understand how partial differential equations, such as those ones which describe fluids, such as those that have really difficult nonlinearities on a wide range of spatial and temporal scales, how do they evolve? That is fundamental to us understanding fluid dynamics, I think it's fair to say. But of course, fundamental theory can also help us with our smart use of data and artificial intelligence. And we see this day to day through physics-informed neural networks or whatever. Understanding the physics is going to make our AI work better than just blind AI. And this comes back to Onno's point earlier. And these things feed both ways. So if we have a smart use of data and artificial intelligence, for example, through understanding optimization of various aspects of fluid dynamics, then this can help us, A, set up our experiments, but also do the best way of doing our exascale computing. Yeah, what parameters should we be doing our exascale computing at? Which direction should we go in parameter space to optimize our results? This is smart use of AI and data. And of course, we're going to use it for a range of techniques, right? Optimization of processes, if you're in the process industry, for example, improved prediction and modeling. Of course, this is something the Met Office, as we heard, is very important to the Met Office, and improved understanding. These things all feed in, and it's only by using all of these things together, I think, that we're going to make serious progress. Okay. I'd just like to finish by thanking all the people who've contributed to LIFD's success. You can see them here. These are including the past members of the LIFD team, including Helen, who was covering for Claire, where Claire was on maternity leave, and now Helen's been on maternity leave. So obviously there's something in the water at LIFD, and she's had a baby, which is nice. But I'd particularly like to thank Claire. Now, I know Kath said everything that should be done for LIFD, but Claire did everything, essentially. And there's a difference between the two. So the LIFD would not be where it was today without Claire. And I'd just like to thank you for that. Okay, and finally, just would like to acknowledge all the support from the University of Leeds. Thank you for coming, and enjoy the rest of the event, particularly the drinks, and what I hope and I know is going to be an outstanding public lecture from Steve Cowley after the drinks. So thank you all very much.